Before sunrise on March 18, 1944, a young American sailor stood inside USS Iowa and listened to the Pacific breathe against 45,000 tons of steel. Daniel Mercer is fictional, but the ship, the battle, and the enemy shells that struck her are real. At 5:40 that morning, the call to battle stations tore through the passageways. Daniel left his coffee untouched and ran below decks, while red lamps painted every face the color of dried blood. Far ahead, Mealy Atoll lay beneath the darkness, a Japanese stronghold surrounded by reef, palms, artillery, and men who knew the American battleships were coming. Stay until the end, because what Daniel discovered after Iowa was hit changed his understanding of courage. If stories hidden inside historic ships deserve remembrance, subscribe now. Here, steel speaks through the men who lived inside it. The tropical night was suffocating. Moisture covered pipes and bulkheads. Salt spray crossed the bow beneath low clouds. Inside, fans, turbines, boots, bells, and shouted orders merged into a mechanical heartbeat. Daniel was 21, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The battleship carrying his state's name seemed more powerful than anything made by human hands. 9 16-inch guns, immense armor, and a hull nearly 3 football fields long. Yet while handling 5-inch ammunition, he understood that a battleship was almost 3,000 separate spheres moving in the same direction. At 5:54, Mealy was reported 40,000 yards away. The island remained invisible, yet filled every compartment. Men checked powder charges. Telephone talkers pressed receivers to their ears. Above them, the enormous turrets turned toward the unseen shore. Mealy had been bypassed in the American advance, but bypassed did not mean harmless. Japanese troops still occupied the atoll, and their guns could threaten ships moving through surrounding waters. From Iowa's plotting rooms, officers converted maps, bearings, and spotter reports into firing solutions. Daniel never saw those calculations. He felt their result in the movement of ammunition hoists and in the changing elevation of barrels overhead. Every correction pulled the battleship deeper into the island's reach. Dawn arrived without warmth. A gray horizon revealed distant rain and a wind-chopped sea. Iowa closed the range toward coastal guns, concealed among trees and concrete. Daniel tasted oil, dried his hands, and touched the photograph inside his shirt. His mother on the porch, holding a cake he never returned home to eat. At 7:04, from approximately 20,000 yards, Iowa opened fire. The first 16-inch salvo did not sound like thunder. It struck the body. The deck jumped beneath Daniel's boots. Air punched his lungs. Dust fell, and metal screamed. Outside, orange fire erupted as shells heavier than a small automobile crossed the sea toward Mealy. Then came the waiting. The guns fired, recoiled, reloaded, and fired again. Iowa and USS New Jersey alternated their bombardment. Smoke mixed with humid air until the ship wore a dirty storm of its own. Below, heat thickened, and sweat entered Daniel's eyes. The 5-inch guns joined, their faster reports hammering the air. Empty cases struck the deck. Orders moved through telephones. Inside Iowa, Mealy was not an island. It was a bearing, a range, and the chance that the next sound would come from the opposite direction. At 9:07, it did. Japanese coastal guns opened fire. Enemy splashes rose like white towers. A lookout called the fall of shot. Another salvo landed nearer. Daniel could not see it, but heard the change in voices over the circuit. Calm remained, yet every word sharpened. Iowa's armor was formidable, not magical. What would you fear most inside that compartment? A shell you could hear approaching, or the silence before it arrived? Tell me in the comments. Then the Japanese found the ship. The impact was smaller than Iowa's guns, but more intimate. A metallic crack traveled through the hull. Daniel felt it in his teeth. Lights flickered. Someone shouted that they had been hit. 2 Japanese 4.7-inch projectiles had struck the battleship. For one suspended moment, no one moved. Then training took control. Reports raced through sound-powered telephones. Men checked for fire, flooding, broken cables, casualties, and fragments. Iowa had suffered only minor damage, but Daniel knew only that an enemy shell had reached the place everyone called untouchable. He joined a damage control party. The passageway smelled of scorched paint and explosive residue. Carrying extinguishers, tools, and lamps, they crossed hatches. Each watertight door closed behind them with a clang, cutting off the route back. Near frame 134, in compartment B-228-Phi, they found the wound. The projectile had torn through the side and damaged degaussing cables that helped protect Iowa from magnetic mines. Metal curled inward. Paint blistered around the opening. It was not enormous destruction, but a small, brutal hole in a ship that had seemed larger than the world. Through that hole came daylight. A narrow beam crossed the smoky compartment and rested on the deck between the sailors. Daniel stared at it. On the other side was the Pacific, the enemy island, and thousands of miles of water leading home. For the first time, he did not see Iowa as invincible. He saw her as alive, wounded, breathing, and dependent on the hands of ordinary men. They isolated wiring, inspected the structure, cleared debris, and reported the space secure. No speech was made. One sailor joked that the Japanese had installed a window. Another laughed too loudly. That was how fear escaped. Above, Iowa's guns answered the shore batteries. The 2 hits could not stop her. Daniel later wrote that her strength did not come from armor alone. Steel could be pierced and cables broken. Her true strength was how quickly frightened men chose duty over panic. When Daniel returned topside, sunlight broke through, hard and white, illuminating gun smoke above the water. The deck burned beneath his shoes. Mealy receded, scarred but dangerous. The ocean appeared peaceful, indifferent to everything upon it. Daniel touched the photograph under his shirt. It was damp with sweat, its edges bent. His mother's face was still visible. He understood then that every man aboard carried a private reason to survive, but survival depended on all of them acting as one. USS Iowa continued across the Pacific, serving in operations against Japan and earning battle stars. For Daniel, the defining memory was not the 16-inch guns, but that line of daylight. The moment an enemy shell opened a window through American steel and revealed courage. Courage was not believing the ship could never be hit. Courage was hearing the impact, smelling the burned paint, knowing another shell might follow, and stepping toward the damage anyway. If this story placed you inside Iowa, share it with someone who believes history is more than dates and tonnage. Comment which warship we should enter next, and subscribe, because every preserved ship carries voices that disappear when no one listens. Years later, Daniel would look at that photograph and remember the joke about the window. Only then did he understand why the men had laughed. They were not laughing because they felt no fear. They laughed because, for one impossible morning, fear had entered the USS Iowa and found every station occupied.